Sixth grade science, Ecology 1. Is fire alive? Fire can grow, fire needs fuel and oxygen, but fire is not a form of life. Although it shares a few traits with some living things, how can you distinguish between non-living and living things? The characteristics of life. How do you define a living thing? What do mushrooms, daisies, cats, and bacteria all have in common? Well, they're all living things, or organisms. It might seem hard to think of similarities among such different organisms, but they actually have many properties in common. Living organisms are similar to each other because all organisms evolved from the same common ancestor that once lived billions of years ago. All living organisms, 1, need energy to carry out life processes, 2, are composed of 1 or more cells, 3, respond to their environment, 4, grow and reproduce, and 5, maintain a stable internal environment. Living things need resources and energy. Why do you eat every day? To get energy. Energy is the ability to do work. Without energy, you can't do any work. Though not doing any work may sound nice, work fueled by engines includes everyday activities such as walking, writing, and thinking. But you are not the only one who needs energy. In order to grow and reproduce and carry out the other processes of life, all organisms need energy. But where does that energy come from? The source of energy differs for each type of living thing. In your body, the source of energy is the food you eat. Here is how animals, plants, and fungi all obtain their energy. All animals must eat in order to obtain energy. Animals also eat to obtain building materials. Animals eat plants and other animals. Plants don't eat. Instead, they use energy from the sun to make their food through the process of photosynthesis. Mushrooms and other fungi obtain energy from other organisms. That's why you often see fungi growing on a fallen tree. The rotted tree is their source of energy. Since plants harvest energy from the sun, and other organisms get their energy from plants, nearly all of the energy of living things initially comes from the sun. This is an orange bracket fungi on a rotting log in the Oak Openings Preserves in Ohio. The fungi obtain energy from breaking down dead organisms such as this rotting log. Living things are made of cells. If you were to zoom in very close on a leaf of a plant, or the skin of your hand, or a drop of blood, you will see cells. Cells are the smallest structure and functional unit of all living organisms. Most cells are so small that they are usually visible only through a microscope, or the paramecium shown in the figure here are unicellular, meaning they have one cell. Other organisms have millions, or billions, or even trillions of cells. All cells have at least some structures in common, such as ribosomes, which are the sites where proteins are made. All cells also have DNA and proteins. The nucleus is clearly visible in blood cells. The nucleus can be described as the information center, containing the instructions or DNA for making all proteins in a cell, as well as how much of each protein to make. The nucleus is also the main distinguishing feature between the two general categories of cells, with the cells as prokaryotic lacking a nucleus. Although cells of different organisms are built differently, they all have certain general functions. Every cell must be able to get energy from food, be able to grow and divide, and respond to its environment. These cells show the characteristic nucleus. A few smaller cells are also visible. This image has been magnified over 1,000 times its real size. This is a paramecium. It's a single-celled organism. Living organisms respond to their environment. All living organisms are able to react to something important or interesting in their external environment. For example, living organisms constantly respond to their environment. They respond to changes in light, heat, sound, and to chemical and mechanical contact. Organisms have a means for receiving information such as eyes, ears, taste buds, or other structures. Living things grow and reproduce. All living things reproduce to make the next generation. Organisms that do not reproduce will go extinct. As a result, there are no species that will not reproduce. Some organisms respond asexually, especially single-celled organisms, and make identical copies or clones of themselves. Other organisms reproduce sexually, combining genetic information from two parents to make a genetically unique offspring. Like all living things, cats reproduce to make new generations of cats. Living things maintain stable internal conditions. When you are cold, what does your body do to keep warm? You shiver to warm up your body. When you're too warm, you sweat to release some of the heat. When any living organism gets thrown off balance, its body or cells help it to return to normal. In other words, living organisms have the ability to keep a stable internal environment. Maintaining a balance inside the body or cells of organisms is known as homeostasis. Like us, many animals have evolved behaviors that control their internal temperature. A lizard may stretch out on a sunny rock to increase its internal temperature, or a bird may fluff its feathers to stay warm. Living things are called organisms. All living organisms need energy to carry out life processes, are composed of one or more cells, respond to their environment, grow, reproduce, and maintain a stable internal environment.